In a world where two short-term rental bros come together.
What?
Not in that way, bro. There's a podcast of truly epic proportions where we talk about all things short-term rental and shoot the shit along the way. Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt Codd and Austin Spitz.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. My name is Matt and I'm here with my counterpart, Austin Spitz. Wow, I messed that one up. Today we have a special guest. We have Brenna Carles. She's CEO and owner of the Mortgage Shop. She's a short-term rental owner and operator. And I'm sure there's some other things we're going to get out of her today. So what's going on, Brenna?
How's it going?
How's it going, Austin?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Just got back from the gym, so popped right on here. Happy to be here. Happy to have you on, Brenna. So yeah, let's get into it. For our listeners that don't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into short-term rentals?
Well, I was born. No, I'm kidding. So I'm from a small stoplight town, and long story short, I was a professional singer in the Smoky Mountains, background singer for Dolly Parton. And while I was doing that, I built my own primary residence, fell in love with the process. Then I got out of singing once the wildfires hit and went into lending full force. I had to beg for my job at this national bank, top 5 banks, U.S. bank. I was there for about 5 years, became their number one loan originator on the East Coast community. And then I decided I needed to be able to offer better products for my clients. For example, like I was submitting a loan with them and I was so stressed. I was working before sunup to 10:30 at night, not being able to eat. And it was just affecting my life, my personal life, everything. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. I would submit a loan. They wouldn't approve it until like 20 days later. And our closing was like 5 days from that. And it was just, it was nuts. And so I was like, I think I can do better. So I opened up my own company, the Mortgage Shop, which specifically specializes in short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and vacation home loans. And our clear to close, or our initial approval, so it was 20 days at the bank. Our initial approval averages about 24 to 48 hours. And our average clear to close is about 8 to 9 days right now. So that's
I know you like to close them out. So I kind of wanted you to explain to everybody, and you say it, I don't think you touch on it enough. I think people need to hear about what the saying "break the chains" means to you. And, yeah, I think that's really important, especially for people to not just be just straight dad jokes. Get a little personal.
I do that too. So break the chains. I would say that like all the time. And until, Bill Faith's conference in February, we were in that workshop and I was like, they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to help people break the chains of generational financial hardship. And they're like, well, that's your slogan basically. And I've said that, my whole life from the time I started to understand everything about financing. And so I would say to people, let's help break those chains. And what that means is if you come from a background like me, like my family and I didn't have any money growing up. If there was money coming in, it was spent. So there's not really anything to show for it. And that's how I was raised. So I just didn't know anything about saving money. I didn't know anything, I was living paycheck to paycheck when I was singing because you do not make a lot of money, even though you're a professional singer. I was the highest paying probably singer in town, but it still was not enough to not live paycheck to paycheck. And so that's when I did build my own house. It was like, I had read something like, if you own your primary residence as opposed to rent, you can save money. It'll have equity in the property, things like that. And so I did that. I did follow the Dave Ramsey thing when I first started out, because that was the only thing I had to go off of. And so it was about 2 years ago that I was walking my dogs and I was like, we've done it. We've paid off the debt we need to. We've taken that money and invested what we would pay in debt, and we've invested into real estate. We don't have to worry about money. And my husband as well came from a background, they didn't have any money either. And so we are kind of that first generation that's breaking the chains of generational financial hardship. And that's kind of what I help people do as well. And so I had a big epiphany like 2 years ago, and I'm like, we've done it. We have to continue to work hard to keep that. And so I teach all of my clients how to do that as well, even if they're first time investors and they think they can't do it, to people that are expanding their portfolio. And, you know, what I see a lot of times is these people come in, it's first time investor, and they're like, we just want enough to quit our day job and be able to spend time with family. But what I notice is they'll get 4 properties and they'll get 5. And they're like, well, I want to get up to 10, 15. Well, I'm like, haven't you met your goal of making the money to live life? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, so why are you increasing your portfolio? Because now you're working more than you were at your W-2 job. So I always try to keep their initial goal in mind to kind of keep them grounded, because as you guys know, it can get out of hands. Like it's addicting and it's fun, but we just have to keep that initial primary goal in mind.
So I think the thing that I like about you the most is that what you lend on, you also do, correct? So you do a lot of short-term rental lending, but you also own these assets as well, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, awesome. So whereabouts are you mostly invested? Is it in Tennessee?
Nope, actually, well, I mean, we have one in Tennessee, but we have one in the Forgotten Coast, so about 45 minutes from Panama City Beach in Cape San Blas. We bought that. It looked like it was falling down. It wasn't. It was just badly painted and needed some updates. We bought it for about $689, and it's appreciated over $300,000 in less than 3 years. And really all we did was kind of update the furniture inside, sweat equity painted the cabinets, which I will never do again, but they look great. And we got a contractor to paint the outside of the house, replace some of the wood that was not good on it. But it was built in 1983, second tier, right there at Beach Access. Great area. So we were kind of found like a diamond in the rough that we had to put some work into, but way less work than what it's worth now. So really excited about that property.
So how does the day-to-day management of an operator look to you? Do you have a co-host in place, or do you guys self-manage, and who's responsible for doing that? As like, that's a business almost in its itself. You're like a lender, you're an investor, and now you're a property manager too, or do you have somebody that does that for you?
So I self-manage. I currently am helping some of the people in our mastermind learn how to co-host, and I mean, they're doing a lot better job than me because I'm so busy with my job as the owner of a mortgage shop that I'm like, well, they're doing really well, so I might keep them on. But as far as it's currently gone, I have self-managed while owning the company and working full-time, managing the day-to-day things that you have with the company, helping my employees on top of being the CEO and making sure all the bills and stuff are paid, all of the, security things are in place, all of that stuff. So I know if I can do it, everybody that's listening can do it, because I am very busy with owning a mortgage company. If you can imagine all of the guidelines and protocols that we have to follow for a mortgage company, it's crazy. So if I can do it on the side, like let's say a guest messages me right now. It's like my code to the door is not working. I can literally get on my phone in my door lock app, and just put in a code and be like, hey, here you go. Here's this code. And they'll be able to get in. And it's not like you have to stop what you're doing, stop enjoying your family activities or anything to be able to manage this property. You do have to put the work in up front to have people in place like maintenance, cleaners, make sure they're doing good. That's more of the upfront work. And once you get past that, it's pretty smooth sailing from there once you have those people that you can trust and put your confidence in to help you manage that property from afar.
For sure, yeah. A little bit of back end, a little administrative. So how many is it just you right now still at the mortgage shop, or you have a team?
No.
Or
we've got 5 other loan originators, 2 processors, a closer, human resources, compliance officer, admin, you name it. We've got all of that. Executive vice president to me, and then me as the CEO. So it's a pretty robust company for a small company. And we've been open for about a little over 3 years now.
And growing, right?
We're trying in this high rate environment. We've done really well. Closed way over like 100 million last year when most brokerages went out of business, and didn't even close half of that. Now, the years prior to that were a lot better, like more than double that year. More than triple that per year, actually. But still very blessed to even close. Like, that's a lot of money still, So, and a lot of loans and a lot of people help. So we've helped over 720 families. So it was a slower year last year, so we didn't grow in employees per se. We grew in our systems and how we handle loans to be able to close them in 8 days, for example. And we're still working on that this year. This year, the 3-year mark was the big year for marketing for me. And like, I've been trying my best to get the, email campaigns going and the lead magnets and all the things that I don't know about. So that's been a learning curve for me. Year 5, I would like to be able to step back if I could and just own part of the company and hire in a CEO. And that would be great. I just don't know, we have to see what the rate environment does for that to be determined.
That's kind of where I was leaning because you have so many different things on your plate at one time. So it's where I was kind of leaning like, yeah, you're going to kind of step out because now you're making appearances on podcasts. You're doing speaking events, managing short-term rentals, managing your company and everything else. So it's like, when are you going to stop? Right. And I know you still go out every morning and go running too. So I don't know how you have time to do all that shit either. So
I actually did do a jog this morning, even though I have a bum shoulder. I kind of like held my arm in place and just jogged, because here's the thing. Like, if I don't do working out, I'll kill somebody. I'm kidding. Mostly I'm kidding.
I might. No, I'm just kidding. But I completely understand what you say. It keeps you sane.
Well, it's the only time I have really to myself, because all day I'm either doing, this kind of stuff or answering questions of my employees or handling something that's going wrong on the back end of insurance or whatever it is. And we get audited by the states as like a normal thing for mortgage companies. So we're actually going through one of those right now. I need to take the time to order my groceries today. So there's just being real and honest. Like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I'm still younger and I still have, I'm trying to build it now. So when I do have kids, I'll be able to step back and actually enjoy that time.
For sure.
Yeah. I think you said it. I don't think I've been to the grocery store in 2 years once I figured out you could order groceries.
Yeah, that's what I do.
It takes, like, you think about it, you go to the store 20 minutes back, and then you're like, okay, I spent an hour and 2 at the store and I didn't make a list. And it's like, okay, this is like a $10 to $15 an hour task. And it's like, okay, they'll just bring it to my door for like $20. And once I figured that out, I was never going to go to the grocery store again.
I told my husband, because he's like, you're spending money on that. I'm like, actually, I'm saving money because the cost of gas right now is high. 2, we would just eat crap, because when I go into a grocery store, I get pissed off because people are in my way. And then I don't remember where things are because I've been doing Instacart for so long. And I'm like, see, you can't even find what you're looking for. He's like, you've been in here for 3 minutes, Brenna. And I'm like, that's 3 minutes? I could have been doing something else that makes me more money than paying $15 to $20 to this driver to bring this stuff to me. So now I think he kind of understands. But yeah, sometimes I'll go in if I ever have time, which I don't. So most of the time it's Instacart.
I actually like going grocery shopping. I'm the only one in the nation, so I should probably just quit doing this and become an Instacarter. I go grocery. I don't like they fuck up my produce.
I don't think Instacarting is like as lucrative as short-term rental.
It sounds more fun. No,
all I know is every time I go somewhere, like the one thing I need in the aisle, a cart's in the way, and the person's just kind of like texting on their phone, and I'm like, and you can't be mean, so I'm just like, I'll wait.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got all the time in the world. Let me wait. So yeah, that's my long story about getting groceries delivered.
So let's go back to lending for a second. So let's say I don't have any short-term rentals. I've done my research, I've done my homework, I started running numbers, analyzing properties. For someone that's just getting into it that you talk to, is there like a one common like big maybe misconception that somebody going into it, like whether it be I don't think I have enough funds to do this or I don't make enough money? What's the biggest hurdle that people kind of they're in their own way about, and it's really not as hard to get going with your first short-term rental? I mean, do you ever see any issues like that that come up commonly?
Yeah, all the time. Like some people, have like 300,000 in savings and they're just like, I don't know if I have enough money, to do this. And I'm like, yeah, it's just sitting there in savings, making like what, $2 every year. And so I kind of show them different loan types. So common misconceptions, they think, a lot of banks will tell people they can't rent out their vacation home when that's actually not true at all. It's just the bank's rule on that. So I try to tell people as much as possible, you can rent out your vacation home when you're not occupying it. If somebody tells you you can, it's just because that's their rule and you need to go somewhere else for that loan. And then a lot of people don't realize, I kind of spoke on this at the boot camp, but they're like, my debt to income ratio is already high. Like it's already at 48%. I can't qualify for a property. But what they don't know is you can use proposed rental income on an investment only loan and your debt to income ratio doesn't go up at all. It just kind of flatlines because the proposed rental income offsets that mortgage payment. And so they are able to now get into a property and cash flow, whatever amount, like, or gross 70,000 per year, as opposed to not sitting and waiting, not knowing their options and not knowing that they can do that.
Yeah, that's interesting because we just bought a home in New Braunfels for a primary residence, and we rented out our other home as a long-term rental. And they were saying that about me because I have, 2 rental properties, and they were like, "Hey, you can't buy another house." And I was like, "Just take me off and use my wife." And then they were like, they come back and like, "Oh yeah, I guess you guys are good to go." So it's like people just don't know this, and I was kind of like, "Well, just take me off the loan." And I feel like there's kind of always a way. I mean, depending if you talk to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also, a lot of banks don't add all of your income back in that you can add back in according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So when they, you have rental income on your Schedule E, or if you're just listening and you're just a first-time investor, that's most of the time where you file your rental income on your tax return. It's called a Schedule E. It's just attached to your tax return. And so a lot of banks don't realize that they can add more things in to show more rental income for that property, and they just don't. And they'll say that you don't qualify when you actually do.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've been in a loan process before where it was like, oh yeah, you're good, 10% down, then call me back and like, oh, you got to put 20 down with points, and that's my fault because I didn't call around. I just was like, oh well, he got my primary, let me call him for my second home loan. So that was my mistake. So I'll tell everybody to shop around. Austin, didn't know you were renting your house. That's good.
And like save time. No. But yeah, no.
Yeah, you could.
If your person did a primary residence loan and that's what they're used to, generally, like you have to specialize in something. You can't, if you're a doctor, you can't like be a great brain surgeon and a great heart surgeon and a great general surgeon all in one. You kind of have to have that niche. And so, for example, if you came to me right now and you're like, I want to do a USDA loan, primary residence, like I'd be like, I'm not your person. Like I don't do those every day. I actually I haven't done one of those in like 7 years. So I wouldn't be your person. And originating investment loans and vacation home loans are an entirely different animal, and you have to know more about income analysis. You have to know how CPAs file tax returns and what form speaks to another to be able to qualify that income. And it's a lot of work. But obviously it's proven lucrative for me to put that hard work in, but most of your loan originators will not specialize in that, and they really need to for you to be able to expand your portfolio or even get that initial property.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that a lot too from like a management perspective, because we'll have people that are interested in our co-hosting services. But the thing is they'll be like, hey, I need this house furnished. It's brand new. It's great. I'm like, okay, it fits our specs, but I'm not touching the furnishing side of things. It's not my skill set. I'm not going to make my wife do it. So I'll have like somebody that does interior design and refer them out. So basically, exactly like you said, I have someone in place that I can send in every single situation. And we only do one thing, which would be, co-hosting specifically. I don't want to touch into those other things. And it's very similar to like you're saying with accounting, right? Like you need a CPA that's specific to your industry or your business, because they're not going to know everything about it like you do. And that's why I like the term like the riches are in the niches, because it's really the truth.
Yeah.
But I guess, what I was going to ask is, the way when I bought my property years ago, I used a second home loan product with legally renting it out as well. Is that still an option? And for a lot of our, beginner listeners, do you care to explain how that works, where you can leverage a little bit lower down and use that, or just explain to them what a second home loan really is?
Yeah, so a second home loan, I usually like to call it a vacation home loan, because people get confused because they're like, well, I don't even own my first residence, my primary residence. How can I get a second home? And that's not what it means. It just means a vacation home. So I always try to correct myself and refer to it as a vacation home loan. It's just been deemed a second home because most people already have a first home. It was kind of like a loan, back in the 90s for rich people, right? Because they're just like, well, I want a vacation home and to summer wherever. They use that fancy term, to summer somewhere. And I'm like, just say that you're born somewhere. Anywho, but now it's known as a vacation home loan, and your primary intent has to be to vacation there first. It's a minimum of 10% down, so it's a lower entry point for your down payment. However, you can rent it out when you're not occupying it. And everybody says, well, how many days do I need to occupy it? Fannie Mae used to say 14 days, but they changed that guideline to say for some part of the year, so it doesn't give you any specific dates. Now, what a normal loan originator will not let you know, if you're like, so I could spend 20 days there, and they're like, yeah, sure. What you need to know is if you're going to rent it out and you want to apply those tax benefits, let's say from a cost segregation study or what have you, with a CPA that specializes in that, you need to stay at 14 days or less. Or you'll start, if it's over 14 days, you'll start eating into what you can write off and be able to claim on that tax return. So that's why I always recommend working with a loan originator that knows that, and then a CPA that knows what they're doing with Schedule E rental income and all of the things that you can do with it.
That's a fine line. I don't think a lot of I haven't even heard that before, so I didn't know that that would affect my tax return if I were to stay there longer.
I'm pretty sure, it's 14 or 15 days. I'm pretty sure it's 14. Yeah, I think it's 14. And so that would show under your personal use days. So if you look at your Schedule E, you will see fair rental days and then personal use days, and that's what it would go under. So yeah, it's a lot of tax benefits and a lot of weird rules that you don't really need to know, but you need to have your loan originator and CPA know to be successful and continue to grow that portfolio.
It seems like it's just only critical within that first year, right? Because that's when the cost segregation and all that stuff takes place, right? So it's really like you got to you want to stay, play within the rules, but isn't it just kind of mostly important in the first year?
I think so. I'm not the CPA, so I wouldn't know about the tax, because the thing is, you can claim everything else every single year on that property besides accelerating depreciation. So you can claim the things that we can add back are mortgage interest, taxes, insurance, HOA fees, any other depreciation that you may be able to claim, such as like your amortization, a casualty, things like that. So you're still able to claim all that stuff the next year on that same property. So you would have to talk to your CPA about, okay, well, can I spend 20 days now the second year to, because I think it affects either your cost segregation, material participation, or both. I can't remember. I think it's more so material participation, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, for the initial property, it's the most important for that first year. But you have to keep in mind, maybe you're purchasing another property within that next year, and that will happen the same thing on that property. So you're trying to do a cost segregation study on that property. and you continue down that path to obtain more in your portfolio.
So I was going to go back earlier with what you said about before this part about, that other people won't add in things and stuff like that should be added in for you to be approved for a loan. And I wanted to say that it's funny because I agree with you. And I do think that people should totally call your shop to check you guys out, because we were at a mastermind event and I believe there was somebody in our group that said they couldn't get a home loan. And you said, no, call them back and say this. And by that afternoon, they were reapproved for this home loan. So you know your shit.
Yeah.
And be realistic.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
And that's the thing, like, to point out, that was for their primary residence loan. So Austin, when, it reminded me when you said your bank said you couldn't qualify if you were on the loan, that bank was saying they had to have tax returns to show, and it was screwing them over because of that. And Fannie Mae doesn't make you have tax returns if you're just showing W-2 income. And so I was like, that must be a rule that they have. So call them back, see if they can waive that rule and just go off of what Fannie Mae allows. And I think they were able to be able to qualify at that point. And that would have, they're having a baby, right? So that would have, they need a bigger home. And so if they'd had just gone off of that person's advice or saying that they couldn't qualify, they'd be waiting and being stuffed into a smaller home for at least another year, because they were thinking that that was their only option. So it can come down to just that little bit of something that somebody tells you and they're just not really good at what they're doing or not knowledgeable to screw you up for at least 1 to 2 years.
Well, yeah, and to point that out, that they thought at that time like that was the only option they had, that there was no other option. They weren't getting approved for this house. They didn't even think to go check another lender, but I know if they were buying a short-term rental, they would have, but they didn't do those things. And when you told them, like, this is the rule, this is the rule, this is the rule, like, I mean, within, I think 6 hours that night, they were like, oh, we got it. We're approved. We're good. Like that's the thing, is that people need to understand is that, okay, if I call you, great, I'm going to go, we're going to see what you got, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to go through you. I need to go talk to other people too and see what's going on. It's just like getting a contractor. You need to have three people, right? But if looking for a short-term, loan, they should, for a short-term rental, they should be calling you for sure.
Yeah. And I always say, do your homework on it. It's not necessarily saying you need to go talk to 3 people. A good lender, if they don't specialize in that loan or they don't have a product for you, will recommend you to another lender that does. And I want to point that out because I do that all the time. Like sometimes a client can't qualify with the rates I have. And I know my friend Brian can sometimes get lower rates in certain times because he works for a bank and that bank can do exceptions. And so I'm like, hey, see if Brian can do anything for you, for example. And so if your loan originator knows that there is a better product out there for them and you do not let them know that, then you're not doing this career for the right reasons. You're just in it to make money. And so the right loan originator would say, like me, like, hey, I don't do USDA loans. I haven't in 7 years, but I actually have a friend that does specialize in those and does them all the time. Let me give you their contact information, as opposed to just saying, no, I can't do that loan, and then just leaving it at that. There's something in our industry or anybody's industry, I guess, where it's like, you feel like, oh gosh, I'm giving them money, so I don't want to refer them to that person because they're going to get the loan as opposed to me. If that's your thought process, you're just, I don't know, not a good person, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like, that's just like the scarcity mindset. Like, only I can win, like I can't solve this person's problem. But in reality, it's like whenever you're doing that, it always comes back around to you in some way, shape, or form, versus like, if exactly like what you're saying, you're like, you can help this person, but I'm not going to get anything from it. So I'm just going to kind of not tell them. Like, that's just not the way the world should work. Right.
And I've never actually mentioned this on a podcast or anything anywhere, but this happened to now my employee. Actually, she was my client at first when I worked for the bank, and personal preference, right? You vibe with somebody differently than you're gonna with somebody else. You may like connect more, with Matt, for example, or you and Austin, Matt, y'all connect versus you doing the podcast with, I don't know, whoever, Jerry Springer. I have no clue. But
Jerry.
I mean, I think y'all would get along with Jerry. But anywho, there was one. She was my client at first and became an employee later because I knew she would be good at it because she was very analytical. But she was working with me and another loan originator at a different company that specialized in what I'm doing. And we both worked with her the same amount. Like I do this all the time. A lot of times I will work with a client, pre-approve them, let them know where they're at, and then they just go with another lending company. That's just part of the business. Like we can't hold it against people. We can't get mad. Like, do we get frustrated? Yes. But this other person, she was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I'm going to go with Brenna just because I feel like, I do have a better working relationship with her and her team. It's nothing against you. Just this particular deal, I'm just going to go with her. And this loan originator told her that she would never work with her again and that she would never help her again because she didn't go with her because she spent a lot of time going over her income with her. And I'm like, and this same person was always like, oh, I love helping people and I do this because I want to help people. And I'm like, that's not true, because if you did, I would never, like, even if I hated that person and I was like pissed off at them, I would never tell them. Like I might tell my employees, but I would never tell them that I'd be like, I am never working with you again because you chose somebody else, or I'm never going to help you. Because the thing is, like, if the point that I get to that, I just need to close my business, because that's not why you get into this, to help people. And that was the whole reason I got into this in the first place. I just happened to become successful at it and make, a good living from it.
I think the people that go around and say how much they help people all the time don't really help people for the right reasons. It's funny because a lot of salesmen are like that way. It's like going to buy a Toyota at a Honda dealership and they'll do what they can to keep you there. They won't say, oh yeah, Toyota's another half block that way. You just got to keep going. Check out this Ridgeline, right? So a lot of people, I mean, it's just society-wise, people are in it for themselves a lot. But the people that are actually out there doing the right thing and doing what they're supposed to, it comes back, right? It's just the way it works.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you have 2 short-term rentals?
I do. And then we're actually, this is going to be my husband's project. So we have the RV and we were looking into, short-term renting it. And then it seemed like too much. And he's actually now going to do it. So that's what he's currently working on. He said it's going to be his project. And I was like, you go ahead with your bad self. And so he's going to be heading that up to short-term rent that out.
Okay. Yeah. I remember we were talking about it's Airstream, right?
No, it's called an Outback. I don't know. It's very nice. Cause the thing is we got it cause he's a helicopter pilot and his job was in Texas. And so we had to, stay down there like part time. And so we're like, we'll just get an RV. And then we didn't realize it was hotter than Satan's butt crack down there. And the air condition couldn't keep up with the heat, and we had dogs. And so we just couldn't use it. So it was like brand new. We actually just used it this last weekend to go to the boot camp. But besides that, we're like, all right, we can either make money from it or we need to sell it to get a smaller one. Because again, like I like to keep my finances up to date. And like, if I'm wasting money on something that I'm not using or that's not making money for me, it's kind of hard to, offset that payment. So he's going to be doing that. Good luck to him. I don't want to deal with draining pipes of other people's waste. Like that's just.
Oh, he's gonna rent it, like rent a trailer or
what
RV
now?
or whatever. He's gonna rent it, like not Airbnb it, but like rent it to people.
No, he's gonna Airbnb it. So it's gonna be a short term.
Okay.
He's going to like. Basically, it's called Outdoorsy, and so you can drive at places where people want it, and we'll do that, and we'll have s'mores packages and all that stuff for him to be a great host. But I'm not touching literally any of that, and it's going to be his project, and so we'll have that going shortly.
So it's stationary, right? Like it's in a location. They are not operating it, because I've seen like ones where you can rent, almost
No,
like
we're not doing
Airbnb,
that.
but you can rent it and it's like, I guess I'm describing an actual RV, right? It's RV versus
Or you can
trailer.
pull it, yeah. So it's like either a fifth wheel that you can do that. You can rent the one that does it's not a fifth wheel and it's to pull behind to people. And I'm like,
The
I'm
bumper
thinking of
pull.
me trying to drive an RV right now, and that thing
Yeah.
would come back just like destroyed because I'd hit everything. I'd probably try to go through a McDonald's drive-through and just take the whole top off because I forgot. So we are just doing it where like somebody's like, "Hey, I want to stay at this RV location or camping spot," and we take it there for them within our vicinity. So we are in the Great Smoky Mountains, so we have ability to do that and be able to have a lot of RV sites at our disposal. So, and I know a lot of them, so I get the family discount, I guess you would say. So, so that's pretty cool. I do.
So the
The
goal is
thing
to,
is, I could
sorry, my
own.
bad. Go ahead.
Oh, I could own a lot more investment properties, and I always cringe when I say this because I'm feeling like people are going to like attack me with like their wooden crosses or whatever. But actually, that's not like my passion. Like I don't enjoy, you know, talking with guests and things like that, and because my passion is my company and help and like helping our clients do that. Because that's the thing, that's their way out. That's not my way out. I'm probably going to be doing this until like 80 or something, and then I'll probably still be doing it, maybe owning the company and not managing it. But this is my way of building wealth for my family. And then I help people by building wealth from their properties. Even though I do own some, I'll probably buy some more in the next coming years. But I'm not gonna have like I'm never gonna be that person. Probably it's gonna have like 20 to 30 properties in their portfolio, just because it's not my passion. That's not my way out for my family, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, just building and growing your business is an asset class in itself, right? Because you're building something that's scalable, that you can show profits on, that you can, I mean, if anything happens at some point, you could sell that, right?
The business?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, I
just a
mean, yeah, I
sellable
could.
asset, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I could
but that's
technically sell the
probably
business.
not in your plan, but it's almost an investment in itself. It
No.
just
Now,
may
if
not be,
somebody comes
real
along,
estate.
everybody's like, "Would you sell your company?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." I'm like, they're like, "What if somebody like offered you 5 million?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "What if somebody offered you 25 million?" I'm like, "Well, I'd have to look into it."
Let me give
I'm
an
like,
NDA
the
and
five
let's
million.
see.
I'm like, I love my company too much. I would never sell. And they're like 25 million. I'm like, well, let's not discount everything. Let's look at the options.
The problem is you'll have to find something else to do after that. That's the thing. So if you
Oh
identify as
yeah,
the mortgage, what are you going to do? You got to find a new identity, because then they're going to say, "Oh, well, you can't open another
that's what I said.
company and
Yeah,
compete with us." So you're
I'm
going to be
like, what
like,
am I?
"Okay,
Yeah,
what did I do that for?"
that's why I'm always saying like I always think I'll have a hand in it, somehow. Even if like I now have a board of directors, maybe I'm just the head of that at some point. If we do ever grow to be that big. But no, I can't not do anything. I'd go insane. At that point, if I did get out of mortgage altogether, I probably would get my GC and do something with that, with like cabins here and things like that and properties. But nah, I mean, this is kind of my niche, so I don't see anytime soon like not doing it.
Makes sense.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can sell it because you already have like the best name SEO wise. So there's like, what else are you gonna name the next thing? Like, I mean, the mortgage fast. Like, it's too late, right? Like, it's too late. You already got the best name, right? So like when people search shit, like you show up. Like people search how to get a mortgage, the mortgage shop shows up because the mortgage is in the name. Like, right? It's great for SEO. And I don't know if you know Amy from our group, but she has a website called Go to Poconos. Anybody search Poconos, it fucking shows up. Like, it's great. So it's like, you can't change the name. So now you can't sell it, right? Unless you tell them to change the name and figure that out. But I mean, you're kind of stuck because what else are you going to name the thing? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I really like it has worked out for me beneficially with SEO. And I'm like, I'm not a CEO. Like when I started the company, I've had to learn everything that I've done. And I'm not a genius, I just work hard, and people are like, it takes a long time to come up with your name, and you want to make sure it's really good, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm just going to call it the mortgage shop because it's simple and that's what it is. And yeah. And so it's grown into like, oh my gosh, the name is genius. And I'm like, thank you. I spent a lot of time,
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly,
you have the domain too,
thing,
right?
And I just Googled to make sure there wasn't another. There's one in like the UK, I think, called the Mortgage Shop, and that was like it. And so it's just like, there's nothing else in the United States called that. So I'm like, all right, I'm surprised.
But you got the domain too, right?
Yeah,
you got the mortgageshop.com. So it's like, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's funny because it's like, when you're spending time on a name, it's like, don't spend time. The first one you come up with, if it sounds clever, just go with it, because you're going to spend like 6 hours and you're going to pick something that you're not even as thrilled as you were before.
Exactly.
Like, it's just the way it is.
I think
and the logo too, if you can see like the logo behind me, that was actually the first logo that this person sent us. I forget who, I don't know what app, whatever we went through. And I was like, let's see what other logos there are. And this one was the best. At first, I didn't even see the house in it. I thought it was some kind of like Indian arrowhead or something, which I do have Indian in my family. And so I was like, well, it'll be kind of note to my heritage. And then I looked and I was like, oh, there's a house in it. Because my husband was like, oh, I see, it makes a house. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, I thought it was like an Indian arrow or something. And so I didn't even realize at first that it made a house. And then I was like, yeah, I'll use this logo because it's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, I think Matt and I were just, before we decided to start this podcast, we went out for steaks and we were just like, whatever, we need to come up with a name. And we were just like, well, we're here eating steaks and we're bros and we both co-host. And it was like, it just came to us, it was like, co-host bros. And he was like, yeah, that's it. We're just like, okay, don't think about it anymore. We'll just start the co-host bros podcast. So
yeah,
keep it simple.
I like it. That's awesome.
Yeah, nothing better to do.
And I agree with you on the furniture thing when you're like, I get people to put that, because I remember we ordered a lot of furniture, like I said, sweat equity, and we're putting stuff together. And my husband's like, do not order another piece of furniture that we have to put together because I am tired of doing it. I'm like, whatever, I'll do the next one. It can't be that hard. And so this was actually for our personal home, and it was, like the little chairs you put out on your patio or whatever, the wicker with the nice, cushions on it. And I'm like, I got it. And I put mine together in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, this is not that hard. And you're still working on yours. Like, come on. And I had put it together backwards. And my husband was like, you can't even sit on this. You can't even, like, it's backwards. It's inverted. And I was like, oh. And so I was like, oh, that's why it only took me like 10 minutes. And so, yeah, I kind of agree now. Like, I just get, the concierge service that we have to do all of that for us.
There's just people that specialize in it and they're going to do it way better than me and they're going to design it way better than me. And it's just like, hey, I would just go that route instead of, I wouldn't offer that service anyways,
Yeah. And people are like, yeah, you just, use a laser beam to get the level for your wallpaper. And I'm like, no, I've tried peel and stick wallpaper before. It freaking sucks. It looks like a kindergarten. It's in my laundry room. If y'all ever come here, you'll see my job of wallpaper in my laundry room. It looks like a kindergarten did it. Yeah, it's not that easy. And so I just pray I never have to do that myself again personally, because it did not make me feel good as a human.
Austin, you see my wallpaper job when you came to my house? I didn't use a level. I just made sure the brim of my hat was straight, and then I was like, okay. I just put it with it.
Did it work? Is your head crooked?
Nah, it looks good because I got good eyes, but I didn't really use the brim, or I'd have been in deep shit. I'll tell you. But I
tend to not notice things like that, like wallpaper and stuff. That just zips by me. But I noticed your two golden retrievers though, so they were very friendly.
Aww.
Yeah, it was so friendly.
Party
Can't
animals.
keep them out of the pool. Yeah, literally they're party animals. Yeah, they either sleep or they play or fight or whatever they do. I do want to say too, because I didn't get a chance to throw it in there when you were talking about your house over there in Florida. It's painted. The cabinets are beautiful. They painted it really well, even though they hated it. If you're looking for a really nice, like, romantic place to stay, call Brenna and go to her house. But because I've seen it. and it's very nice. And you guys did an excellent job. And actually, I think you should sell it and get something different. And now's your time.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you want to pay, what it's worth now, I might think about it.
Not me.
But...
Not me. I'm trying to sell my house still.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, if anybody wants to... Oh, that's right. You did personally see it because we had to go through it. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The cabinets are just like freaking... I can give people advice on painting cabinets. I will never do it again, but I can give people advice on that.
Advice one, pain in the ass. Yeah. I've done it before too. So it's like, God dang, how many times I got to go over this? Terrible. My God. So I wasn't going to bring up your bum shoulder. So it was funny you brought it up. I just didn't get a chance to say that. Brenna had told us before she had a bum shoulder. She said she got in a fight with a homeless man. So that's what happened, right?
Over my sandwich. Yep.
No, you were hungry.
Yeah. Just like punched him in the throat because that's the only thing that I could reach at the time.
Yeah. He just happened to be short too.
Yeah, he's short too. I had to like go up. That's why my shoulder. Yeah. I had to go up a little bit.
The whole Superman punch.
Like Bill Faith's height. Like I have to go up a little bit, but I can still reach it. And that's what no. It happened. So I power lift and I was doing it correctly. I'm just getting older, I think. I've had cartilage issues before in my collarbone and shoulder, but yeah, I did bench press. I did Larson's where you keep your feet up, and I did all that, 100 pounds, 5 times and 3 sets or whatever. That was fine. And then I went to dumbbells, which is like incline dumbbell, which is a lot lower in weight, which is only 65 pounds. And you do a lot of reps, like 3 sets of 15. And I just hear like to me, I thought it was like right here. I could hear like, the little cartilage kind of moving, which it has before. And then I hear the pop and I'm like, oh, it's just my cartilage popping. And I didn't feel any pain. I went on, I did, tricep push downs. I did lat pull downs, all that fun stuff. And as the day progressed, I could not lift my elbow past my chest. And so nobody knew at the boot camp until afterwards. I told Bill afterwards, but I was in so much pain that I felt sick to my stomach. And it still hurts pretty bad. So I think I'm finally just going to have to go to the doctor and get it checked out. But yeah, I think it's a dislocation from the collarbone to the shoulder. And I'm pretty good with pain most of the time, but I know when I probably need to go to the doctor so it won't cause me issues as I get older, as I'm getting older now.
You just walked around with one stiff arm and a microphone in your hand?
Yeah, I kind of just like if you can, I need to stand up. I kind of just like held my arm like this arm. And then like I had the clicker with this arm, so it was good. So I just held it like that. And then I was like just gesturing with my left arm. So it kind of worked out for me, I guess.
So I got one last question. Matt's been working on some Co-Host Bros shirts. So we're going to have to figure out a way to swap Co-Host Bros shirts with some kind of, I don't know if it exists yet. I don't want to be a spoiler because I'm sure it's in the works, but we need some kind of mortgage dad joke shirt from you so we can do like some kind of trade-off.
Yep, I will make that. Some things are in the works. That I don't have time to do yet, so I just need to get my admin on it. But yeah, some things are in the works for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll get y'all one.
Cool.
So
mortgage dad joke of the day: interest rate 0%. I don't know, like that. That's just like not even a dad joke. It's just a sad joke.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I know we're running out of time. Is that you could tell everybody where to follow you and everything like that, and then you can give us a nice big mortgage dad joke of the day.
Oh, you can't put her on the spot like that.
On the spot.
Yeah.
That's wrong, man.
So follow me at Brenna Carles on Instagram. So you'll have all of my stuff there. I do other things than mortgage dad jokes. I educate you guys on finance and what you can and can't do in a fun way. I explain to you the different loan types in a fun way. I try to keep it interesting because I know it's boring for most of you. So at Brenna Carles on Instagram, you can search me on Facebook at Brenna Carles. And then we have the Financing Short-Term Rentals Facebook group. If you literally just type that in, it looks like the Miami Vice 90s vibe cover photo, kind of like if people are, is this going to like, can people see us?
If they look it out on YouTube, yeah, they can.
Okay.
Or they might see some shorts out of it.
That I currently have. Just think of Miami Vice, which is telling my age. It's Financing Short-Term Rentals. You can join there. I am the one that owns that. And then I answer all questions in there. So whether you don't feel like putting it, you can do anonymous. I'll answer it for you. So we put a lot of stuff in there. I'll go live in there a lot of times and just answer everybody's questions. And then you said, for the mortgage company, you can do mortgage.shop. Literally, that's our website, simple as it is. And you can go there if you want to schedule calls and things like that with us. Mortgage dad joke. Let's see.
And you should go there, everybody.
This one hasn't come out yet, I don't think. I don't think that one's that funny. So
exclusive.
I'll do the one that's funny that has gone out, but it's like, I love it. I don't know. It's just the one I like. So, why did the Scarecrow get nominated as the number one realtor? Because he was outstanding in his field.
See,
because like outstanding and then like a scarecrow, yeah.
No, we got it. We laughed. We got it.
It's
everybody else who didn't get it. Like, you turn this podcast off.
Just like the slow. Okay.
Oh, I liked it.
I challenge you though, if you are listening and you think dad jokes are stupid, because I used to think that they were the dumbest things, and then like I realized though, even how dumb they are, you still kind of like smile or laugh from them no matter what, because they are so stupid and so dumb that they're now like, I think there's guys now on TikTok that just sit there. They're like dads and they sit on a dock fishing and they do it back and forth and they like try not to laugh.
I've seen those guys.
Yeah, it's freaking funny. So yeah, a little happy.
That's what you think to yourself. You're like, that's so stupid. And then you just start laughing because it's just that stupid. You're like, oh man.
And if I can make somebody smile through finance somehow, then I've done my job.
Well, I hope that you made everybody else smile. We were over here laughing and smiling, having a good time. I thought it was a hilarious joke. So we really appreciate it. But I find the humor in almost everything. So that's probably good and a bad thing. Well, the bum fight, I'll get the video out there. But we appreciate you coming on so much. And please follow Brenna. And if you want to get a mortgage of any kind, practically except for a USDA loan, call Brenna and she will help you out. Otherwise, we really appreciate y'all tuning in. Please like, subscribe, everybody. And I'll let Austin bring us out.
The Co-Host Bros Podcast.